Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the SMCast. If you guys are unaware, the SMCast is a weekly podcast where we talk about life stuff, school stuff, YouTube stuff, and just all different stuff in general. If you guys would like me to cover a specific topic, please let me know, and then we are able to talk about more stuff. I like talking about whatever you guys want me to talk about, but today is a very special day because it has to do with something that I tend to know a lot about. Today we are talking about homework. Now, it may sound like I'm running out of ideas. I'm not running out of ideas, okay? But we're talking about homework because school's going back. I'm already back in school because my district likes to start school astronomically early. But we're going into September. A lot of kids have already started school and are starting to get on that homework drive. So I'm here to help you children with your school life and why homework is actually a pretty bad idea. And if you're a college kid, well, too bad, because homework is necessary. And it's mostly projects. It's not, oh, do this one day and it's due the next. Nope, you get all your work that you have to do already in your syllabus. So it's your teacher isn't springing an essay on you for no reason. It's important. But if you are in elementary, middle, or high school, this is for you. This is the SMCast. Okay, so today we are talking about homework. Homework, definition-wise, is school stuff, math pages, readings, annotations, stuff like that is supposed to be done outside of a school environment. Now, in context, it sounds like it's a good thing. Oh, you learned something in a lesson, you go home, you do work related to the lesson, and then you have a better understanding of the lesson later on. Now, while that is indeed true, the point of homework isn't to teach kids much, because if you are a good teacher, if you know what you're doing when you teach the kids in the first place, they shouldn't go home and do a review. Because if they already know what it is, then you can talk about it the next day and they know what it is because you taught them well. The point of homework for most teachers is to make up for the lack of teaching that they gave them in the first place. If they taught them something, but they didn't teach it well, homework will fill in that gap. Now, most teachers tend to use it, and I am going to be throwing a little shade here, mostly at math and at science. Now, the reason I'm targeting math and science specifically is because when it comes to stuff like history and social sciences, the homework is necessary because there's a test revolved around it. If you're in AP World History or AP US History, the whole point of the class isn't to learn history. I mean, yes, that is the point of the class, but the point of the AP is to prepare for the AP test. Now, when it comes to a test, yes, you should study, and the allotted hour of the day where you get to study during class just isn't enough for most people. And when it comes to stuff like history, there is a lot of stuff to cover. In AP World, you cover 8,000 BC to the present day. That is 10,000 years stuffed into an 8-month-long class. That is an hour a day, 5 days a week. So you're getting maybe about, I want to say, let's just round it out, about 100 hours in that class. Now, you can't fit 10,000 years into 100 hours. That's just not going to work. That's what the notes are for. That's what the SAQs are for. That's what the DBQs are for. Now, that does make sense. That makes entire sense to me. So, I get it where they're coming from with homework in those classes. And with English, some English homework is pretty dumb. Like, annotations, I don't like annotations. They're really, they just don't work for me. But when it comes to essays, you're not trying to review stuff that you've learned, because with English, it honestly really isn't about learning. It's more about looking at stuff a different way. It's weird because most classes are about, okay, here's a lesson we're going to teach you. With English, it's about, here's a lesson, see how you can look at it. And I do give English mad respect for being able to build something off of that, because it's not really teaching you much. Like, you don't go into an English class and then leave saying, wow, I learned a lot about a certain thing. No, when you go into an English class and then come out, you say, wow, I learned a lot about the world in general and about society and about how things are said. Now, those are going to be useful in the real world, but you're never going to be able to really see it in form of a conversation. Like, you're not going to be talking with someone and they're going to say, hey, what are literary devices? And you're like, oh no! That's not going to happen. So, with English, when it comes to essays, I get it. And in most classes, it's not frequent enough to make it warrant any scrutiny. There is some scrutiny in there, but it's not enough to warrant this video for that. I said video. This podcast episode dedicated to that. Now, what can be scrutinized is math, specifically. Science as well, to a lesser extent. But math, because everybody takes a math class. Not everybody takes science classes throughout all 4 years of high school. But for 90% of everybody, they take 4 years of math throughout high school. Now, what math likes to do is it likes to teach you a lesson. Then you get a couple pages with problems that are related to that lesson. You take the problems home, you do them, and then you call it a day. Now, there's one problem with that. First, you're doing problems in the class. And if you're going to be talking about them the next day, you should be able to leave an impression in the class. I get why they're doing homework. I'm not saying that homework is entirely bad. I know that they're trying to make the students remember more, but for the most part, I would say the cons outweigh the pros. Let's take a look at this for a second. So, pro for homework. Students get a better understanding of the lesson. Okay, that's actually a pretty good pro. Con, students use a lot of time that could be allotted to school activities, like extracurricular activities like sports or clubs, family time, or maybe just their relaxation period, because school for children actually does take a lot out of you. I'm in high school and I know that after an 8-hour day, the last thing I want to do is homework, but I still have to do it. I'm recording this at around like 9:30 p.m. I was working on homework until about 7 p.m. Now that's a long time. Okay, I was studying for a test, but still, like, that's a general day. I'm working on homework for maybe like 2-3 hours. Those 2-3 hours could be better suited in a family position or in an after-school activity position. If I wanted, like, for example, I am involved in some extracurricular activities at school, and I am also planning on being involved in some community theater stuff. I would be involved in a lot more if I didn't have homework. I can just say that with absolute certainty. The commitment of certain things just is overwhelmed by the amount of homework that we are given. Now, kids do it. Kids do that. They make it work. I can't make it work. I would not stop thinking about it, and it would freak me out, and, you know, it's just how I am. But still, the mere fact that I'm having to deal with that kind of scenario is kind of evidence towards what I'm talking about. Now, that's a big con of homework. Now, another pro of homework is that if the student brings back to class the next day a completed homework page, then that lets the teacher know that they actually care about the class. Now, that doesn't make sense. If they do the homework, then they must care about the class. But, like I've said, it's only because they need to keep... Well, I haven't said this, but it's because they need to keep the grade up. And homework takes a lot of grade, takes a lot of the percentage of the grade in most scenarios. And unfortunately, that's true. There are a lot of syllabuses out there where homework is taking 25, 30% of the grade. Where if you don't do the homework, you fail the class. Bam. Instant C or D, even if you got everything else right. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And it does suck. It really does. But there's kind of no getting around it. And those students are stressing themselves out. If they have extracurricular activities, then they are stressing themselves out for what? To get points to keep up a grade which doesn't even prove anything about them learning stuff. For example, okay, this is a good example, okay? I'm not naming any names, but in my freshman year of high school, I took Spanish 1. And Spanish 1, looking back on it, is a relatively easy class. If you know how to do the work, then you're going to do it. It's going to be fine. And I did the work. I did the work pretty well. But my teacher in that class was very bad at doing what he did. What they would do is when they would give the notes or give the vocabulary and stuff, they would write all the answers down as you did, which means you could just sit there and not do anything and just kind of follow along with what they're doing and call it a day. And I know some kids in there. I did learn some stuff because I did outside work, but I know some kids in there who didn't learn a single thing and still got an A. It made it look as if they were smart, when really, they were not. And when it came down to homework, it was a simple Google Translate kind of problem, which meant that the teacher's actions were based on our understanding, which unfortunately wasn't high, despite the grades showing that. Now, grades aren't everything, and unfortunately, everyone thinks grades are everything. Like I said right there, grades are not an example of intelligence or brain activity or whatever you like to call it. It's not it doesn't get how smart you are. The valedictorian of a school isn't necessarily the smartest person in that school. They just knew how to work the system into their favor. They just knew how to take the most AP classes. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they are the smartest, but that does mean that the system that is built was working for them. And unfortunately for a lot of people, the system just isn't working for them. I learned recently that America, the United States of America, is, I believe, like 25th in education in the world, I think. I'm not going to fact check me on that, but I believe we're around 25th in the world. And unfortunately, that's just because our education system is very outdated, and it does have a lot to do with just how we approach things. Now, homework is actually not a good approach because it's way too easy to cheat out there, man. It really is. Do you guys know those Instagram groups, those Snapchat group chats, the Facebook groups, the Twitter DMs and everything, where kids just, one smart kid, right, just writes down all the answers, gives them to everybody else, airdrops them to everybody else, and then they just spread it along, and they do. I've used those a couple times, and I'm not proud of it. I'm not saying that I use that all the time, but I've used it a couple times when I couldn't figure something out, and unfortunately, it's not a level of intelligence right there. Yes, you were smart enough to find a way to get an answer without actually having to do the work. But, and yes, that is smart in its own right. You gotta be kind of a genius to be able to cheat the system like that. But, like I said, it's a waste of time. At that point, you're doing the homework just for the sake of doing the homework. You might as well have not done anything, and you'd still get the same level of education, the same experience, and you would have saved more time. The teacher would have saved more time in grading. The teacher would have been able to more correctly judge your intelligence or understanding of their class if they just saw your classwork, in which you couldn't cheat the system and find the answers online. Especially if they have a phone policy, you wouldn't be able to. It would be a better understanding of your level of understanding in the class. Now, a lot of people are very divided on this topic, mostly for the reason of, oh, we want our kids to have better experiences, I would say. And then other people are like, no, we need homework to keep the kids on track. And it's just, I'm on the side of anti-homework. Like, I still do homework, of course. And I feel like, to an extent, homework is necessary. Like, school projects are, if a school project is assigned, I do not expect to do everything in class. You should expect to do some of that at home. If an essay is assigned, if a school final is assigned or something like that, then yes, it is necessary. And I'm going to tell you, the reason why homework in schools right now is a thing is because it is a thing in colleges. And colleges do not have to follow the same guidelines as school does. In a school district, everyone has to learn relatively the same thing and do relatively the same work. If a college professor wanted to, he or she does not have to assign any homework. It's all based on them, and what they like to assign, luckily, isn't busy work. It's stuff that actually is relative to the class that will actually help you in the long run. And unfortunately, high school teachers and high school districts and middle school teachers even, and elementary schools and the school districts in general, at least in the state of California, have not figured out that homework and busy work are not the same thing. And it is really sad that we're out here wasting our time as students to an extent. And it really does suck that nowadays, especially, kids are just failing more and more because they don't have the time to be doing something which they shouldn't be doing in the first place. What I say is a good example of what to do in this scenario is more along the lines of what colleges do. If I was a high school teacher and I didn't have to follow any guidelines, I would, on the syllabus, create a list of assignments. No busy work. Everything is big projects that'll take you like 2 or 3 weeks to do, and I'll space them out. I'll have, like, in the first quarter of the school year, which is around, for at least my district, is August to October. In there, I would have 2 projects put in. Same thing for second, third, and fourth. That way you have 8 projects. They're all big projects. They're all very important. Those take up 40% of the grade. And as long as you get all of them done, you're fine. There's no busy work involved. It's all spaced out so the kids know what they're doing so that they're not surprised by anything. That way I don't go, oh, by the way, for homework tonight, it's due tomorrow. Finish pages 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And each page has like 10 problems on it. I'm not surprising any kids with that. I feel like that is the worst thing you can possibly do. And if it was worked more like a college, more kids would do the work. Because I would say most people who don't think about it enough, I'm not calling anybody dumb, but most people who just look at the numbers would rather 8 big projects than 100 small projects or small busy work, because they would see the 8 as opposed to the 100, and then they'd actually do the work because they'd say, well, yeah, I did this one project, but there's only 7 more, so big deal. Whereas, oh, I did this 1 page of math. I have 300 to go. Yay! Nobody would pick all those math problems over just projects that have to do with the class. And unfortunately, high schools and middle schools and elementary schools are probably never going to get that. They're probably never going to understand that homework isn't a necessity when it's busy work. And it really does suck that it's like that. And I wish it wasn't. If it was up to me, like I said, if it was up to me, I would make it more so about getting an understanding of their understanding of the class as opposed to a how well can you cheat on your busy work. And it's never going to be like that. So just unfortunately for now, we're just going to have to live with it and know how we're doing and just be able to understand what it is that we're doing. And it's kind of saddening that right now, at least, we're kind of at a big stalemate where it's going to stay that way. The pro-homeworkers and the anti-homeworkers are gonna kind of forever stay interlocked in this battle. Eventually, maybe 15, 20 years from now, it could be structured more like colleges, but it probably won't be. And I think the worst part is that high school courses are called college prep courses, but they're not prepping you for the college experience. I don't know. I find that very funny, and it's kind of sad. But hey, you do what you got to do, and unfortunately, we got to do homework. So, it's just that's what it is. So apparently, college prep means nothing nowadays. In college you get 10 big projects and that's it. But in high school you get 1,000 little things. And it's kind of does suck. And it's just an upward. It's an upward slope. That's what I'll say. Now, don't think that I'm thinking that homework is all bad. If homework is done correctly, then, and by correctly I mean no cheating involved, then it is good, because it means that not everybody is just out there cheating the system. And unfortunately, we are never going to get to where nobody cheats the system, but if we find it in a way where everyone plays fair and everyone plays the game by the rules, then eventually maybe someday homework will start to mean something to some people, and it won't just be busy work. So that day will probably never come, but hopefully it does. But I'm not holding my breath. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the SMCast. I really do appreciate it. You guys have no idea just how much I really do love your support on these episodes. And if you're listening to this on anything other than YouTube, go find my YouTube channel, SM22. I almost said SM23. SM22. If you're listening to this on YouTube, go find my Anchor page, anchor.fm/SM22, and listen to it on Anchor or listen to it on YouTube, whatever you guys want. Just, your support on the podcast so far has actually been astronomically great, and I really do appreciate it. We are coming close to 500 subscribers at the time of me recording this. So who knows? Maybe over the next weekend or so, over Labor Day weekend, we can hit it, because Labor Day weekend will be my first stream in like a month, and we're going to be streaming some very memey stuff so that people can find me and us and be part of our community. So thank you guys so much for watching or listening, and I will see you guys next time. This has been the SMCast.